All right. I like laughter. That means we're having a good time, right? So I think we've got a couple folks that want to do some pitches. So if you've got your little pitch form, let's come on up and we'll give you about a minute or so to explain what you want to do. And then for those of you looking to join teams, pay attention, see what you want to. And when you're doing your pitch, if you already have a team and you don't want anyone to join you, please be specific about that. But I think hopefully everyone's looking for help today. So Jim, do you want to go first?
Yeah.
If you could come up front, because we're actually recording and live streaming to all the beautiful people who should be here but couldn't make it.
My proposal is to use data from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, which has modeled the flood extent from the hurricane, and then use that data, and it also provides a kind of a level of flooding in an area in meters, and then use that with parcel data to identify property parcels that have been flooded and rate them based on the levels of flood. Also get additional information, demographic information, things like income, possibly use a CDC vulnerability data set to identify areas that are lower income. Also another variable we have is the value of the home. So we would come up with a rating of how vulnerable a person is based on the level of flooding and also their economic status, an estimate of their economic status. And then this data set would be used by relief organizations, helping them prioritize people who may be more vulnerable and need assistance earlier. And also it could help in the long run these people get grants from FEMA or from the state.
Thanks, Jim. Great. There you go. All right. So if you're interested in working on that, be sure to find Jim over the next couple minutes. I was going to ask Crystal to go next, but she left it. Melanie, you want to come up?
So some people in Chicago made something called Shy Safe Path, which allows people who are using wheelchairs to take pictures of obstructions in public infrastructure. So like, you take the train all the way downtown, it takes an hour, you get out, the elevator's broken, you have to like go to another stop or something. Or, the sidewalk is obstructed by construction and then you have to like turn around and go home basically. So they made something where someone can take a picture and report a hazard so that you can plan your path there beforehand. I think we could make something like that that would use 311 data and like city information about planned construction. And then I think it would also be great if we could somehow, this is like the harebrained scheme part of it, but somehow make it so that you can gamify like people checking up on those hazards. You are like an able-bodied person who's not using a wheelchair and you want to go for a walk in your neighborhood, you can choose to route your path so you're going and checking up on some reported hazards and seeing, hey, is this still a hazard or has it been resolved? So.
Awesome. Great job. Or maybe you could integrate it with Open 311 to use like C-Click Fix or something. Cool. Frank, you want to go? Keep it simple, right?
Yeah. We've got a fairly simple project. It's fire truck inventory, and the data piece is pulling in the locations of the fire departments and the districts that they fall into, so that way firefighters can be able to keep track of the inventory that is on their trucks, which in a lot of departments is currently done with paper and pen, and this might be a little bit more robust solution. It'll also send out an email to whoever needs to be notified when something comes up missing.
Great, thanks, Frank. All right, and that's a continuation. Crystal, we're going to need you next. That's a continuation of a project we started at our National Day of Civic Hacking event a couple weeks ago, and I think you probably have a little bit of a lot of information to start with. So I don't have any good geek jokes while I'm waiting on Crystal. Oh. We're matchmakers too. It's great. Here, I'll hold that for you.
Thank you. I have all my info on there, sorry. So my idea is called Getting There. I also, in addition to being a web app developer, I work for the city of Raleigh as a trip escort for senior citizens. And a lot of times we encounter being on the road and needing to find a place to stop and having to look really quickly before we miss our chance to get off. So this app would be using APIs and people's recommendations for sites where you can find good food, a good bathroom, good service, just an overall good experience. And when you plan your trip, it will put tags on the locations nearby, the parts of your trip, so that you can go there, and it'll also show you how to get there and get back to where you need to be to continue your journey, so you don't have to do that work yourself to like find the locations and then look at the reviews and then try to like quickly get off. And it'll help people needing to get somewhere quickly, which I feel like that will also go into play with people who need to evacuate, so that they'll know along the way quickly somewhere they can go. I would like to include shelter information on there as well, and including if the shelter has availability or if it's filled up, so that they can quickly get to shelter if they need to, and maybe incorporate some kind of ride service where it could be used for a nonprofit, where they could have volunteers take people place to place, but also use this to kind of guide where they need to stop off. So it'd be like a nonprofit benefit for it, incorporating into that. That's pretty much it.
All right, sounds like a lot of options there. You know what you could do with that project is, in my neighborhood, you can sit down, you don't have to sit down. I always see food-lying shopping carts laying on the sidewalk, which is an obstruction, so we could pair those together. But I'd love to figure out if like the people who are taking the shopping carts back to their apartment actually just need a ride, and if their neighbors could give them a ride. So if anyone wants to work on that, you could take that piece on. So it's the avoid the shopping cart and the sidewalk project, and just make a ride share for a volunteer ride share. Does anybody else want to do a project today that want to do a pitch? You don't have to. I just want to make sure I didn't miss anyone. All right. So you saw the 4 pitches. If you're interested in working on a project, jump on one of the teams, and I'll go around later on and pass out the team forms, and we'll have those due at right before lunch. And I heard they just brewed a fresh pot of coffee, if that's enticing to you. All right, if you have any questions, come find me or one of the organizers. But the rest of the day is for you to work on, and we'll do a tech check later on before final demos. And last thing is really just about getting a minimum viable product, or excuse me, a minimum viable prototype. And where want you to flesh out your idea and go to the website and look at the judging criteria so that you can build towards that. All right? Well, good luck and have fun today.